wheel. The wheel is, I think, 18 feet in diameter. It's a steel wheel now. Originally it was a wooden wheel. It was replaced in 32. What's that say, young man, on that sign there? I think 32.
Help me find it.
Right in the first sentence.
Yep, 1932.
Okay. My memory hasn't failed me altogether. This is called an overshoot wheel, which means the water comes in on the top and discharges out the bottom. And each one of those little cups has a hole in it, so when the wheel is shut down, especially during cold weather, you wouldn't want it all iced up, and you wouldn't want it loaded to start it either. To start it, you would come over here, you would crank this wheel, which would raise this gate, let the water flow in. The dams on Cook's Creek are diminished. There's hardly anything there anymore. So the only water that we have available to us to try to get the wheel to run would be the water coming down
Coon Hollow.
Coon Hollow Run, thank you. The mine's going blank.
No, I don't think so.
First thing to go is the mine. Anyway, we did have it running in 2002 or 2003, somewhere along there. I can't remember that it's been that, or can't believe it's been that long ago, but yeah, time passes by very quickly. So anyway, the wheel turns that shaft right here, which we'll see later on. If and when you wanted to get that shaft to run, you would have to push on this and put a pin in that hole to lock it in place. And we'll discuss that later as we go on the other side. The old stone wheels were used to make flour, which when I was here, that was all done and over with. We made no flour anymore. They weren't in operation when I was here. And I was here in the early 60s, shortly after high school. I graduated in 1960, and shortly thereafter I came to work here at the mill. And I was here for a couple of years. We mainly made feed for chickens, cattle. Other than that, not much. As we go through here, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If I don't have the answer, I won't lie to you. I'll just tell you I don't know. So we'll go over here. Watch your step as you're going down the ramp. We're going to stop for a second here. It's called the attrition mill. Okay, this is where we ground barley and oats, maybe a little bit of wheat that would go mainly in chicken feed. And we will continue on down the ramp. Like I said, this was the attrition mill, small grains. When we did corn, it was run through a hammer mill, which was in the basement, and there was a hole in the floor there where we would bring the corn in and dump it in. That would be blown up and eventually end in the mixer here. The mixer would also be able to go into the molasses mixer, and that was to make the cattle feed more tasty, if you want to say that, to the cattle. And it also tasted pretty good yourself if you dip your finger in the molasses and licked it. I will attest to that. But you would hook a bag on here, and you would pull the chute up, fill the bag up. We did not sew anything. Everything was tied by hand. We used a miller's knot. Sometimes I will have to show you how to do that, because I tied lots of them. But anyway, the molasses mixer and the mixer. We'll continue on over to the other side, and then we'll discuss what I was telling you where I engaged that gear. That shaft continues through the wall.
That's all right.
Just keep right on coming and we'll go right on around the corner here. First of all, here's where the shaft ends. There's a pulley there. There's a belt that's disconnected right now. Went on that pulley, which in turn turned this belt with the cups on. Farmers would bring their grain in, whether it be oats or barley. They would dump it back here where those wooden planks are. That would be, there's an auger in the basement, which we'll show you, which runs all the way up here, dumps the grain into here. This would be running, taking the grain upstairs, and then you could select which bin. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 bins. We'll take it up. You turn this wheel, which you'd select which bin it was going to go in. If, say, that bin was Gerald Lomer's bin, you'd select that bin, and when the grain would go up, dump into a funnel affair, and then eventually wind up in that bin. That way we did not have to go out to the farm, pick up that man's grain, bring it into the mill, and process it. It was already here. I can't say whether Mr. Riddle charged them for that, or whether it was free. But there was only 8 bins, and there used to be a lot more farms than 8 farms in the area, so it was first come, first served. So, all right, now we got the grain up in the bin. We could take it over, put it into the attrition mill and grind it there. Like I said, the corn was done with a hammer mill. If there's no other questions or whatever, we'll go down the basement and we'll show you what's going on down there. As we go down the basement, please be careful walking. There's a low overhead. You're going to bang your head on that beam if you're not careful. So please be careful as we're going down.
The beam doesn't move.
I'm sure it doesn't.
Millers were known for having bumpy heads.
Watch your head. Okay, now we're in the basement. Here again is that belt that we saw upstairs, comes down and runs this pulley, which comes out, runs this auger, which is now made of steel. Can anyone tell me what this is called? It's like a big auger. You know what that stuff's called? Flighting.
Flighting?
Flighting. That's still in use today. On my son's combine, when he empties the combine out, there's flighting in there that worms that grain out into the truck. This is also flighting. This one's all made out of wood. Does the same thing, but it's made out of wood. And when the county owned the mill, There used to be a roof over when I said where they dumped the grain in. Well, I shouldn't badmouth the county, but they apparently didn't know what was down here because now all that's rotted away because they let the water get into it. It's a doggone shame, but it happened. Okay, let's go over and look at the bottom of the wheel, or where the water wheel is running. Watch your step over here. You got one little bitty step to step up. Okay, this is the discharge area of the water wheel. The water's going to come out of the bottom of the wheel. It's dumping it as it's turning. It's going to be turning. If you're looking at it from where we are, it's going to be turning clockwise. So that means the water's coming in the top. The weight of it is turning the wheel, comes down, discharges the water, goes through the wall into the tail race, which eventually ends up in Cook's Creek. Does anyone remember what the original name of Cook's Creek was? Come on now, you're not that young.
Yes, I am, Ronnie.
I always knew it as Durham Creek.
No.
I never knew it as Cook Creek.
I can remember back when I first got a fishing license, and you get this little book that tells you everything, and they kept saying about Queen Anne's Creek. Where the devil is Queen Anne's Creek?
It was named after Queen Anne's cavern or room in the cave.
Whatever, but that's
Isn't that
what
Queen Esther's?
that's what it was
Queen
called,
Anne's.
Queen Anne's Creek,
Oh.
and then it became known as Cook's Creek.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. You just told me something.
Come on, Ron, you're making it up.
Okay, now this big wheel here is made of wood. I don't know why. I surmised that it's probably to cut down on the noise, because if it was all steel, it'd be very noisy. As it was very noisy when the wheel was running. But anyway, this is made out of wood. This is all tied together. As we go around here, I'll point out another thing, because during the summer months when farmers were harvesting their small grains, by the way, this is the tank for the molasses. That was the storage tank.
Maybe it was a Queen Anne did that.
One of these is steel, one of them is wood. Again, probably to cut down on the noise. As we come over here, when stream flows were very low, we did not have probably enough water to run the water wheel. We could hook a tractor up, run the belt pulley into this pulley, and we could actually run the mill by running a tractor with a belt on the pulley. They don't make tractors with pulleys on anymore, so we'd be SOL.
Have to find an old one. Somebody's backfield.
Anyway, we're gonna come around here and we get a good look at the wheel. You can see those little holes in each cup that lets the water
No
drain
way.
out.
I've seen this
There was no
before.
heat per se in the mill. So it was usually very chilly in the mill during the winter months. If you look closely, you can see the holes in each cup which drain the water. Because again, you did not want that wheel to be loaded with water when you were trying to start it. We won't go out on the catwalk because it's not safe anymore. And when I had the wheel running, it would run away on me. In other words, without any load on it, it wanted to run real fast, and then it would slow down. Then it would go real fast, and then it would slow down. So I had to come up with something to make it think that it was working. So I rigged a brake on the shaft, which made it just enough to make it work a little bit. So the wheel ran at a steady rate. I didn't have the water that we should have to run the wheel, and we'll never be able to get enough water again because the dams are shot. The dams are, I don't know how familiar you are with the area, but if you went over here to the old schoolhouse and made a left onto Dogwood, when you went out past the farm, when you get to the next curve in the road, if you went down that fence row, that's how far upstream the dams were. They're not there anymore. They're all gone. And you'd never get a permit to put a dam in Cooks Creek again. So if and when we ever can get the wheel running, I'd love to see it run someday, but I don't know if I'll live to see that. Are there any other questions? The old,
Arch.
I don't know what the arch was. I don't know if that was something to do with the original,
Mine?
from the mines,
Yeah.
yeah, could be.
Actually, this building, the mill, was built on the foundation of the original Durham furnace,
Yes.
which was built in 1727. My understanding is that is part of the
Part of
the old
furnace.
furnace.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's close to where the arches on outside.
Yeah, and this was a really unique place in the United States. Back in 1727, they built this place that made iron. It cast the cannonballs and musket balls for the Revolutionary War, and they did some fireback. They're called firebacks, plates of iron
They
that were
also
integrated.
made boot pulls.
Boot pulls, yeah, and they did some Franklin type stoves
Yep.
that they made here. After this furnace, they had to put some new ideas into place, and rather than do it here at this spot, they built a second furnace downstream a little bit. And about 14 or 15 years after that, they built a third furnace, which is even closer to the mouth of the Cooks Creek on the Delaware. But this is, some people say this is where the Industrial Revolution of the American colonies started. 1727, and there were 500 people who were employed by the furnace. And some of the people that were involved in actually building that furnace included people like William Allen, who was the founder of Allentown. We have there are two signers of the Declaration of Independence who were part owners of this furnace, and a couple of very influential people from down in the Philadelphia area. Mr. Logan, who Logan Square in Philadelphia is named after. So there's a lot of important people that were involved here. But this was a big place. Benjamin Franklin was said to have said that, in his opinion, Durham would probably outstrip Philadelphia as far as being an important city in the colonies. So thankfully, it didn't happen. We like it the way it is.
I'll say.
Well, I said to Stephen a while ago,
Oh.
before I left the township, I was walking across the parking lot one day, and I happened to look down, and I thought, what the devil was that there? I went and got a screwdriver. I had a cannonball.
Really?
And I asked him if the Historical Society had ever gotten it. Because I had to leave suddenly because my son got injured pretty badly by the bull. So I was milking cows. And they cleaned out my desk, and I had a box of all my personal belongings. No cannonball. I don't know what ever happened to it. So see, Stephen told me what you have.
Yeah, we have two. We have two. We have
There's
a.
one that's about that
Yeah.
big around, that's about the size of the
Yeah.
one. And I don't know if it is the one that I,
Well, you can take a look at it and see if it's.
he did, he showed
Ah,
it to me.
okay.
Now, I can't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we
my
have.
parents found them in the beams in our basement.
Oh. Wow.
Embedded in the wood
They were braced in the beam.
like
Yeah.
hiding?
Well, I had a unique experience last week, out at the Rod and Gun Club. Pawn Stars, did you
Oh,
ever
yeah.
watch that
Yeah,
show?
yeah.
They were
Well,
out there.
Rick, the guy that has the pawn shop, he was there and they were shooting a segment for the show. I sat and watched this all afternoon. They were,
Wow.
well, they were, he was discussing how much they wanted for this cannon. They had 3 cannons there they brought. And they actually fired them. That was pretty neat.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have not heard when that segment's going to be on the show. I told Pat McGinnis when he finds out, please let me know.
Yeah, yeah.
How long ago was that, Ron?
Just last week.
Last-
Last week. Yeah, yeah.
How'd they come to the Rod and Gun Club though?
I have no
No
idea.
idea.
No idea whatsoever.
That's, because Marion Barkovitz had it posted on Facebook. That's how I know it happened.
She was there.
She was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had her picture taken with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how they got there.
Well, there was quite an entourage.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, beginning back to the history of this place, a lot of people don't realize the intricate work that had to be done, or the amount of work that had to be done before they could make the iron. They had to mine it. They mined it out of the mountains that are right around here. If you drive around some of the back roads, you'll see a lot of the lime kilns that are there. They burn the lime to make the lime for the flux that they would use in creating the iron. They needed fuel, and back in 1727, they didn't mine for coal, so they really didn't have coal for fuel. And wood didn't burn hot enough, but they discovered that if they would turn that wood into charcoal, the charcoal would burn hot enough to melt the ore and get the iron out of it. So they employed a lot of different charcoal makers, and they had to burn 1 acre of wood a day to keep this furnace going. And the furnace operated 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, just kept on going, and it was 24-hour a day process. So, but 1 acre of wood, you can imagine what happened to the countryside around here. All this that had been wooded at one time was completely stripped bare, and if you see some of the old pictures from back in around the time of the Civil War, everything was denuded. There were hardly any trees at all around here. Fortunately, the trees are starting to come back. But the process was pretty detailed, and everyone had their job to do, and they had to do it well, and they had to do it right. After the iron furnace moved, then they built Mr. Long, William Long, built this mill 1820. We're going to be celebrating the 200th anniversary of this mill in another year or so, and so that's going to be an event here as well. But this was a really interesting undertaking.
I forgot one thing too.
Sure.
The old hammer mill
Yeah.
sits there in the corner, and that was either this hole or this hole. It was mounted right in here somewhere, possibly right here. I'm not sure. Over here. But that's what it was used when we ground corn. And it was
Flails would come flying out through centrifugal force.
And then that stack would come out, it would be blown out of there into the mixer upstairs. Like the exercise field.
Yeah. You're no
So
hamster.
if there's no other questions,
Well, as you say, if people are interested in this kind of thing, Fresh Creek State Park, there's Hopewell Village where there's the Hopewell Furnace. There's quite a bit of it left. You can tour that. It's really a lovely tour to see, how they operate. And they even have some of the huts that the charcoal makers would live in while they were doing the charcoal making. Yeah, it's really very interesting. And they have, I'm not sure if it's going on now or if it's over, but they have many heirloom apple trees. You can go there and pick apples for your own use, you know, without having to pay for them.
Where's that at, Sarah?
It's at French Creek State Park, Hopewell
Oh, okay.
Furnace.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too far from the Daniel Boone homestead. It's in Berks County, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are more interested in the mill, there's some interesting pictures upstairs that you can go take a look at. Jeff brought them in, and he has also a display of the different types of grains that were ground here. So you can go upstairs and take a look at that. Thank you very much.